The Tidy Boys.
Music for a harder generation.
We are here finally at last. Andy, we are live.
We do apologise.
Now, this is a pilot. Look, I look really fat. Can I just say that before we get going on the show, somebody decided to put one of those wide-angle lenses on. And what it does, it makes people that are probably medium-sized look huge. So if anybody's just tuned in and said, Ammo's put some weight on, it's not true. If you see me in real life, I'm still a 32 waist, Andy.
So we are a little bit late. We do apologise for that, but we've had a few technical issues. But hey, this is a pilot. We've got a nice setup. We've got Sam, who's producing in the background.
Hello.
We have Gay Darren in the studio.
One
we
item.
have Lee Green on the controls. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
In this
So
show.
we had a meeting, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that whether we should do a test pilot, like a lot of people do, a pilot show on a test page to make sure everything works. And then it was unanimous that we said, no, let's do the show live. Now, we have got 3 cameras, and we're going to prove that to you with our visual expertise. So this is camera 1 that's seeing my big fat belly and Andy. That's camera 2, which makes me look better because I'm hiding behind the desk. And camera 3 is zoomed mainly on Andy's crutch. And that's mainly for the girls to get a glimpse of what's down below. So the first thing we need to do is some interactiveness and find out if there's anybody watching and if they've got any questions. Most people say, Amadeus, you're too loud, Andy, you're too quiet. So Sam is behind us here, as you can see. Lee will be switching between cameras more often than he has done at the beginning of the show.
So the theory behind this show.
We've got. We don't want that.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
There's feedback. What's happened there?
That's all right. Don't worry. It's a pilot. These things will happen.
And now the screen's gone off.
That's fine. So listen, the plan here is it's 25 years of Tidy. Today, Amadeus.
It is. It's 25 years of Tidy. So this time, 25 years ago, let me pull it up here. We actually had this single come out. If I can just zoom that. You can see that on camera there quite clearly. It's a sleeve. It's a record. It's in a house bag. Do you remember this, Andy, the first release?
Yep.
Handbag, as you found out. There it is. This is actually a mint copy, unplayed. So this is the very first release. And I'm just showing different camera angles there. I don't know whether that's a better one there, Lee, if you can see that. So the ladies and gentlemen can see that it's genuine and it's not CGI. There we go. Just look at it for a minute there.
The first release on Tidy. 25 years ago today.
How old were you 25 years ago, Lee?
Well, I will have been 26, Amadeus. 26 years
Wow,
old.
that's a year younger than my son.
That's crazy, isn't it?
26, and I would have been 30.
So, should we talk a little bit about what's coming up in the show?
Yeah, well, first of all, we want to explain the show. We had a meeting again last week about could we cram in 25 years of Tidy in a 2-hour show? The answer was no. And then we decided, hold on a minute, we're going to be 25 for 365 days of the year.
Yes.
So I think it was your idea to not cram it in and do a show every week. So for 52 weeks, on a Wednesday, kicking off a week of Wednesday, there will be a show every week, and it will be going through Tidy's history, because there's a lot of people we want to talk about and a lot of things we want to talk about. So this is a podcast stroke TV show stroke radio show.
So we'll be doing it every week. We promise, do we?
Unless you don't keep your promise.
So so thematically across the weeks we will go through various things like the clubs we've played at, the records we've released, the weekenders,
The music.
Maybe John Bishop will appear with the crazy American tour.
Maybe will. But the whole plot of this is to try and, over the next 52 weeks, talk about each track, why we signed it and things like that, all the people that actually made Tidy happen, because the Tidy Boys are the front men, but there's a big organisation such as Music Factory and the staff that work there that we want to give a shout out, people like Martin Smith and Guy Garrett and Ben Thomas. There's too many to mention, and they all need their own. And then you've got the DJs, people like Lisa Lashes and Rob Tessera. We're going to get those pending, so you may notice the social distancing as well. We didn't mention that.
Yeah, we are 2 meters apart, and we've got no more than 6 people in the room.
And we were originally, back in March, going to have a big party here in the offices, and we were going to invite Lisa Lashes and every DJ you've ever seen, and we were going to have one big party and film it, but we can't do that. And Leeds is on a strict lockdown as well, so we've had to stick to 6 people, 2 metres apart, Andy.
So, coming up in the show, we've got some messages from some famous DJs. We have some new music. We have a nice little feature that we recorded earlier with 2 very famous clubbers that you may recognise. And we've got... What else have we got coming up?
Well, I'm just looking at a list that was typed out in a familiar font of Arial and by Sam Townend. We're going to be going through, obviously, a bit of history, but we're also going to be pushing new music. And... because we're celebrating 25 years, we didn't want to just constantly look back. We've just had a #1 Beatport album, and we're probably more relevant than we've ever been. So there's lots of new music. We've got an album that's coming up that's going to excite you, we're going to talk about, and hopefully the Tidy Boys will be playing some tracks from that. And pending the internet and no fire alarm, we hopefully will be playing some music a bit later on behind those decks where you can see the lovely Sam Townend.
He's looking good. So should we kick off with the first record?
Well, I think because I've done this, let's remind ourselves of the very first record. Sam, if you'd like to get that ready, the very first record that ever came out 25 years ago. It's a cheesy number by the Hambaggers. We didn't know where we were going with it, but let's have a quick listen to remind ourselves of how cheesy it was. The Hambaggers.
Music for a harder generation.
The Tidy Boys.
First for hard dance. First for hard dance, the Tidy Boys. Music for a harder generation.
Andy, I forgot how cheesy that really was. It was done. It was recorded in the summer of '95. We'd just done, I think, Hyperlogic, 2 in a 10, 2 in a Tank, and that was sitting there, and that was the first release.
Yeah, when you listen to it now, because I've not heard the original for quite a while, you do forget how cheesy that was. But myself and Amadeus did produce that. We were the Handbaggers.
And we actually, on the back of that, because it was sort of a bit of a gay anthem, we got loads and loads of remixes to remix from quite big artists, didn't we? We had about 2 years of doing Handbaggers remixes, charging up to $5,000 a remix back then. That was the glory days. On the other side, obviously, Paul James did the Tradesman mix.
Bit cooler.
Now, we are going to be talking about Paul James over the coming weeks quite a lot, if we can get hold of him. And Strike Me Down mix, that was me and Paul James, and the Handbag Mode mix was just a fast version. It's got my old phone number on there, I think, or somebody's phone number, 0850 533 292. There we go. Tidy 101. Now, we're trying to get some messages up, aren't we, Andy?
We are. So what we'd like you to do is via Facebook, if you could just share some of your Tidy memories, maybe people that you met, the first gig that you went to, the first Tidy record that you bought. So share those on Facebook, and with our assistant Sam there, we'll have a little chat about those.
Yeah, what I want to do is get some familiar names up. We've got a lot of people watching tonight, and obviously we want to give as many shout-outs as we can. So we have got some sort of schedule. We apologise again for being late. We were supposed to be at 7 o'clock, but we had a fire alarm go off. We had to all measure 2 metres apart. Gay Darren turned up late because he'd apparently fallen over and had to go home and wash his hands. But we are going to get...
I'm looking forward to bringing Gay Darren in, because some of you will remember that we did a radio show called Music for Our Generation for 4.5 years on Galaxy, and Gay Darren was our sidekick, so he's going to make a special guest appearance anytime soon. Yeah,
and I'm looking at him now. He's keeping 2 metres away, and that's obviously due to COVID, and I think he's HIV. No, that's not true.
That is not true.
That is not true. I retract that. It was done for the comedy. It was done for a joke, Darren. We know you've been tested many times.
Many times, every week.
And you can't get it through just doing it over your chest or anything, can you, anyway? So we've got a great show for you. We're trying to get some interaction going. And if somebody could sort that out, that'd be really grateful. So it's all about old music, new music. Now, Andy, recently we've just had a #1 in Beatport chart.
We did.
On Tidy 2. Now, Tidy 2 is probably one of a lot of people's favourite labels because of its epic trance. And I said the other day, wouldn't it be good if we got a Rob Tessera track this year to launch Tidy 2 in its 25th year?
Yeah, so I heard the track a few weeks ago, and I think I put a post on Facebook to say it was one of those tracks that made me want to be back at places like the Opera House. It really just epitomises our scene. Arms in the air, there was the spine tingle. So this is, for me, is just a phenomenal release.
Yeah, for me,
Tidy 2.
It sums up Tidy 2. Rob had done it during lockdown, so he was very inspired. The track's called Aspirations, and it's a goosebump moment, and we're very proud that this will be the next release on Tidy 2. Rob Tessera, Aspirations.
Music for a harder generation. The Tidy Boys.
Anything you want, you can have. So claim it. Work hard to get it. When you get it, reach back. Pull someone else up. Each one, teach one. Don't just aspire to make a living. Aspire to make a difference. you want, you can have. So claim it. Work hard to get it. When you get it, reach back. Pull someone else up. Each one, teach one. Don't just aspire to make a living. Aspire to make a difference.
Music for a harder generation.
The Tidy Boys.
Well, that was Rob Tessera and Paul Priestley, and it's coming out on Tidy 2, and it's called Aspirations, and I think that is massive.
It really is a huge record. I was just looking at the comments coming through there, and I think everybody is in agreement. That is one massive tune. Just picture yourself at wherever, Sunday Central, the Opera House. That you just cannot not put your arms in the air to that.
Even Adam Dixon likes it, and he's quite a perfectionist because he's a producer as well. Just reading Ian Lake, everybody's loving it. Tune. That really, I mean, we've just had major success with the Reverend album, which we'll be talking about shortly. But for me, if anybody had any doubts about Tidy 2, that just puts you back on track. It's our 25th year. We have got 52 weeks to talk about the past. We will have, hopefully, your favourite DJ standing on this table while we undress them over the next 52 weeks and ask them questions. But we do want to talk... What are you laughing at, Lee? Lee Green keeps laughing. Now, a couple of things I must point out before the next feature is the wide-angle lens. I must stress.
Well...
Look, what happens is when you look at me straight on, I'm fine. But the camera on the wide-angle lens there, it literally puts 3 stone up. Look at that. Everybody's laughing, but it's not funny, is it?
What do you think, Darren? From your angle?
I don't think he's lying, I'm going to be honest.
I mean, my wife's at the back there and she's appalled. You know,
She's just been sick.
you know that I'm thinner than this, but it's
Like a beanbag.
for me.
A big beanbag.
I'll be honest, it's marred the show a little bit. It's our 25th year, and I'll look back at this, you know, with a lot of friends and family, and they say, "Oh, you put on a lot of weight then." I don't know, I look like a fat lorry driver. But yeah, Tidy 2's back. Well done to Rob Sear and Paul Priestley. That's a mammoth. You're going to hear a lot of that. In fact, it's going to be on a forthcoming album we'll talk about shortly. So on my notes here, and it says, "Look to Andy and smile."
Nice.
Next, let's talk about... We talked about the Handbaggers. We did a lot of remixes, and the other remixes we used to do. Do you remember what they were? We all chipped in. Untidy.
The Untidy Dubs. Now, remind us, as fans of Tidy, because you are the authority on all things Tidy.
Yeah.
So, Tidy Trax launched 1995. When did the Untidy label appear?
Well, we had a label manager called Simon Paul, who went on to be Lost Witness. And it was his suggestion around the table in sort of late 97 or during 97 to come up with a slower label, something that appeared, because we were going quite fast, and I think Simon said, look, there's a lot of DJs want to play it and they're pitching it down, and if you want to get traction in America, you've probably got to do some slower stuff. So he came up with the idea of us doing a slower label. We had no name. Me and Paul Janes went in the studio, and I did a track and sent it to him, and it didn't sound like the Untidy Dubs we know and love. In fact, we'd done 4 tracks on that EP. We'd done 3, and we were missing 1 track.
Yes.
And Paul Janes said, he did Getting Hot. And I said, Paul, can you knock another one out this afternoon? And in 2.5 hours, he knocked out a track called Funky Groove. And he did it in 2.5 hours because he left the desk up for Getting Hot, and he literally bashed it out, sent it to me, and I said, Paul, that's got to go on the A-side. That's the best of the lot. You've done it in 2.5 hours. And Funky Groove sort of established us. Jules was playing it. In fact, he got signed to Manifesto.
Darren's on the floor. What are you doing, man?
Sit down.
The old fella's fallen down. So what year was that?
Well, we're looking at 98 when the Untidy Dubs was flying, and I think the first EP we did 4 EPs, lots of remixes. But then what happened is, because there was a consortium of we had Guy Garrett doing them, me and you were doing them,
Yep.
Paul James was doing them, Flash Harry got involved. So, and then later on, obviously Sam and Paul Maddox. So Untidy Dubs was a sort of a name. It wasn't for anybody. It was a production of producers.
A production of producers.
What's the word for a collective name of producers? A consortium.
A consortium.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Sam, for that.
Now, I see we've got Amber D said hello on the chat there. Funky Groove, top notch, says Daniel Sewell.
And did you know the sample, feel that funky groove, right? We didn't know where it had come from. So Manifesto said, we've got to clear that sample before we put it out. And I had to ring up Norman Cook.
Let me just drop that name.
Let me relive the call. Hi, Norman, it's Amadeus. From Tidy.
The fat one.
The fat one with the glasses, yeah. No, but he did. I actually said, Norman, you are aware who I am. He said, yes, I'm aware of your work. Thank you very much. And because he'd got the old record where the sample had come from. So Norman Cook helped us clear the sample for Manifesto.
Lovely story.
Lovely little story. You can write that down later on. We'll be asking questions.
This is the kind of stuff you're going to learn on this journey through these radio shows over the coming weeks.
Yeah, can I just say that every Wednesday, whatever you'd normally have planned for 52 weeks, just cancel it.
No, I just need to say hello to my daughter because she keeps saying hello there. Hi, Dad, says Sophia. So, hi, Sophia.
Hi, Sophia. Yeah, and John and Mish are on. Steve Lidd.
John and Mish, legends.
My wife's talking to your daughter. That's unprofessional. And we've got a lot of people tuning in. And like I said, even if you hate the first show, bear with us. We're going to be doing this for 52 weeks till we get it right.
Absolutely. So, shall we remind people of that Untidy Dub sound?
Yes, because it's quite poignant. Because again, from old to new, if you ever listen to this, we'll talk about where we think Untidy should be going in the future. But let's go back in time with this one. I'm not sure. I've just put here, play an old Untidy Dub. Lee, choose one of your favourites and play your favourite Untidy Dub.
The Tidy Boys.
Music for a harder generation.
Tidy.
For hard dance, the Tidy Boys. Music for a harder generation.
Good choice, Lee. Only me, Hyperlogic, Untidy Dub. How'd you feel about that?
Took me right back to the time when we actually made the original for that record.
Yeah, well, the original is quite... probably we should talk about this because we're talking about Tidy's history. Like I said, if you've just tuned in, we've got 52 weeks to go in depth about Tidy's history. This first pilot show is to check the technical ability of Lee Green, and the other thing is for us to skirt over some of the highlights. But Hyperlogic was me and Andy, and what it was is we'd produced a track for London Records with the Guns N' Roses sample, and it couldn't get cleared.
No.
So the Christian at London Records said, could you do a follow-up already while we clear the guitar? So we went in the studio, and Andy can only play a few things on the piano off the top of his head, and one of them was New Year's Day by U2.
Yeah, so I put the chords down for U2 New Year's Day. We put a bit of a beat behind it.
Yeah.
And we've got a huge record library, so back in the day, there was no loop packs and such like. So you went into the record library, you were flicking through, pulling acapellas, and you threw over the top Alison Williams.
Yeah, Sleep Talk,
and we went, oh, that's in key. And that's how it started to build.
It was in key, but for producers, it was badly out of time. So we had to do a bit of time stretching the S1000 sampler. And then, before you know it, we've created a great track. However, we got a guy called Steve Edwards in to sing verse, chorus. We wanted to make it into a pop record because we're quite pop producers. We sent that to London Records, and they said, I love the idea, but can you get rid of the vocals? Okay, and he said, do a dub remix. We sent the dub remix in without the Steve Edwards vocals on. He said, that is the A-side.
Indeed.
And that came out on Huge Tunes, which was one of our inspirational... I was talking to, I think it was Sam the other day about this. Looking back, what a dream come true. Biggest inspiration label was probably Huge Tunes. And we get our first track signed to Huge Tunes. Then it came out on London on red vinyl. Pete Tong's all over it. And then, before you know it, that sort of is the basis for us building Tidy tracks.
Absolutely.
And for all those Tidy fans out there, they say, where was Paul Janes? Paul Janes didn't come in and get involved in the Hyperlogic project until single 2.
Yes, where we sampled You Got the Love with the Prodigy piano this time.
It was Your Love piano,
yeah.
and it was Shades of Rhythm chords as well. So that was quite a complex one. So Untidy Dub there, and the Untidy Sound, which went on to probably be, at the time, around 98, 99, probably our biggest sound. Manifesto signing it, DJs in New York playing Untidy, and the Untidy remixes, we got so many come in that I think me and Andy were doing one in one studio, Paul James was doing another one, Guy was doing another one. So again, a consortium of producers doing remixes, and I think the last remix we ever done under the Untidy name was an Erasure remix. $5,000 for that.
So, moving on.
So, yeah, because we've moved on with Tidy 2 and had the success we talk about, Untidy, we don't want to let go. In fact, we want to bring it back with a bang. But it needs to be reimagined. Like a lot of things, they need to move forward. Now, we're very fortunate to have Sam Townend as a big part of Tidy, as he always has been since 2007. And Sam's been on a journey through Tough London and the house projects he's been involved in. Has always, for me, brought the housey groove stuff into Tidy. And what happened on March the 23rd? Can I tell this story about this? Yeah,
go on.
I'm going to tell this story.
Don't be shy.
March the 23rd, we all got into lockdown, and Sam has a great producer, but worked with a lot of other engineers. And he knew how to work Ableton. He'd done mixes in it. He was very, very good in Ableton. But one thing he hadn't done, and I kept telling him off, was to make his own track without an engineer and become the engineer himself. So during lockdown, when a lot of people hadn't got anything to do, he dug down and he produced some tracks. And over a period of about 2 months, because he was doing it for the fitness project we were doing, which was Pure Energy Go, he developed and developed, so much so that he went mental and has now got 15 tracks lined up for an album, which for me captures the old spirit of Untidy, but has brought it forward and maybe will appeal to people like Patrick Toppin, etc.
So the gentleman's at the back, Sam Townend, is producing this show for us, but also...
Can everybody hear me all right?
We can hear you,
yeah. We'll put you on the widescreen so people can see your little head there.
So talk to us about the process behind the album, Sam. What was the inspiration? Give us a little insight.
So yeah, as Amo said, I don't know why, but lockdown came and I just got uber creative, got my head firmly into Ableton. I've always found that kind of lower 130 BPM to upper 135, edging towards 140 BPM, my natural kind of BPM rhythm range. I've always liked the Untidy sound. You know, me and Maddox worked quite a lot on it back in the year 2015 for Tidy 20, inspired by what you guys did. Obviously, my influences from the house world, from the Tough London stuff that I've been working on with Ben. And yeah, it was just, I wasn't really thinking about the music I was making, to be honest with you. It just came out, and the first few tracks were literally just me messing around, and all of a sudden I started to hear a sound developing that was like between 130 BPM to 135 BPM, using a lot of samples, but not obvious samples that you've heard before, taking a lot of inspiration from what I was hearing in the tech house world and the house music world, and just making it a little bit more hard house, making literally, it's my interpretation of house music that is hard, but it's the house music that is around today, but a little bit harder. That's the best
Lovely.
way I can put it.
And I heard him doing the tracks, and he said, I've got another one. And it was, I think, about 2 weeks ago, I listened to them completely, because he's got an album coming out that's mixed, and it was only when they were all together in one complete mix did it dawn on me that it was such a great album, and we're going to champion that for the sort of new sound of Untidy. So do you think the kids, the boys and girls, would like to hear one of your tracks from that album?
I'd hope so, yeah. This is the first time anybody's going to be hearing it publicly. We've picked one track off the album. The album's called Fractal, which is a bit of a reference to two things. One, the definition of a fractal is a shape that's ever changing, ever evolving and ever ongoing, which kind of represents the sound. And also it's a bit of a nod and a wink to my main inspiration in life, which is my dad, because he's a painter and an artist, and he's very inspired by the world of fractals. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, I have the track that I've picked tonight is a track called Jesus, but it's not spelled Jesus as you know it. It's G-E-E-Z-U-S.
Tricky.
Lovely
it's
stuff.
A bit of a street name, but yeah, I hope you like it. This is the world premiere of the track. So yeah, without further ado,
Stick it on.
Is Jesus.
Music for a harder generation. The Tidy Boys.
for a harder generation.
The Tidy Boys. The Tidy Boys. The Tidy Boys.
Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Holy Jesus.
We are the Tidy Boys if you've just joined us. This is a bit of a pilot show. We are revisiting Music for a Harder Generation, which was a radio show we did for about 4.5 years on Galaxy. And we're going to do this every Wednesday coming soon. Now, that was Sam Townend and Jesus coming out on the Untidy label in November, Sam-ish?
Early November-ish. The release date's a little bit fluid, but it will be early November. I think the second is penciled.
14 tracks?
14 tracks, yeah. Full album, all DJ-friendly mixes, all out at the same time.
Now, yeah, and like I said, it was very difficult, a bit like the Nicholson album, to choose one to play. And also, we've got a very difficult task of choosing another one or two to put on a forthcoming album. Have I got the... my assistant, who is lucky enough, she sleeps with me, so she's allowed to touch me within 2 meters. Come on, it's my wife. There she is.
Yeah, we are socially distancing today, as you can see.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm 2 meters away from Andy, although technically we only need to be a meter, but there we go. So if you can just see these on the screen there, why I'm talking about Sam's album is because we've got the task of coming up. These were probably, I think this and Euphoria, let me pull this one. I think a lot of people tell me, I don't know if that can hold it, well, it's better that way, I think. Look at that one, Lee, there you go. I think a lot of people got into Hard House through the orange or green Euphoria or the Tidy Boys annual. Now, the Euphoria thing's a bit of a technical nightmare because Sony and Ministry of Sound are all involved with that. But we obviously put this out on Tidy Tracks. It was mixed in 2000, late 2000, and came out in 2001. So it's 20, although Tidy's 20 years old, this album is going to be 20 years old. So we decided, we had a meeting last week.
We did indeed.
That we would, do you remember the old annuals? I've got here, but I think there's an image that's going to come up on the screen of all the...
Sorry, Darren's making a racket back there.
Darren, you're not on yet, you big fat clummocks. I think there's a picture that Lee's going to put up of the previous albums. I wondered if you've got any of those. There you can see we started with the I think the Tidy Boys album came out first, then the Tidy what's that?
Latin Nights.
And then the Tidy Girls came out, and then I think it was the annual, the FC annual, and then it was the summer annual, and then the TV annual. Now, you remember these because they were a little bit taking the piss out of looking and all the old aliens inside. You got some naughty stuff as well. So we've been, there's a lot of clunking around. What the hell's going on?
It is this chair that you bought. I mean, how much you pay for it?
Look, Darren, you're not on yet. I'm talking.
It's not your piece yet, Darren.
Sorry.
Sit quietly.
Bastard. Right, so where was I? Yeah, we're talking about these annuals, and we decided because it's Tidy's 25th year and the 20th anniversary of the annuals, we would do a new annual. And I can tell you, it's going to be 3 discs, and here is the sleeve for you to digest. There it is.
Oh, it's good. Now, this image of you makes me laugh whenever I see it, and I don't know why, because I think you look like somebody off the telly. It's you, but clearly not quite you. I'm quite pleased with my caricature.
Yeah, you came out all right, I think. But it's called Confessions of the Tidy Boys, and as you can see in there, it's all new music. Put that back on, Lee, so they can have another look, because I think some people didn't enjoy it enough. There it is. So what you can see there, it's all new music by the Tidy Boys. It's going to be, for the first time ever, the annual is going to be 3 discs. There's going to be 2 discs of new music and 1 with a surprise, some classics on, probably from a live set from the Tidy Boys. So there it is, Confessions of the Tidy Boys, and that is coming out in October.
And some brand new tracks from some big old hard house names. I was listening to the Ingo track only this week.
Well, can I tell you, I've got some news.
Wow.
There's 2 Ingo tracks going on the new album. So this annual will have a new Colin Barrett single, 2 new singles from Ingo. There's Steve Hill and Technical. They've got brand new singles. Sam Townend's new single. The Tidy Boys have got a new single on there as well.
Indeed, we have.
Rob Teixeira is going to be on there. There's going to be lots of from Carl Nicholson. I looked at the track listing the other day, and like I said, 30 or 32 tracks that are all brand new. You're going to love them, and that's the Tidy Boys, Confessions of the Tidy Boys, which will be coming out shortly.
Great Christmas present. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we did a radio show called Music for a Harder Generation on Galaxy, which went out on a Saturday night. I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, we like to take a lot of the credit for that show, but I think actually it was our assistant, Gay Darren, the one-eyed driver, as we called him at the time.
I don't know whether you can see him because he looks a long way away on the widescreen.
That's good.
You probably, look, he's miles away on that widescreen. You probably can't appreciate how big his nose is. Turn to the side, Darren.
Not as big as your belly.
Oh.
Now, there's a story attached to Darren. We met Darren through Tidy Weekender 1 when Darren did security at the Weekender, and he was a big fan, wasn't he? And he I think he fancied me.
He fancied you,
yes,
but
he did.
Didn't realise how old you were, so he backed off. Because you were too old.
And then the story progresses that from there we befriended him, and he started driving me particularly, and I lived in Sheffield, and then he started driving yourself as well. So you became the Tidy Boys driver, didn't you, Darren?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And he got affectionate name for 2 reasons. We knew a lot of other Darrens, so how could we distinguish him between the other Darrens we know? And he said, well, I'm gay. And I said, well, I don't know any other gay Darrens, so you could be Gay Darren. So originally he was Gay Darren, our driver, and then we were on a trip to Cardiff.
Was that Swansea?
No, it's Cardiff. It was Cardiff, and we were driving back, and we passed the Cardiff eye hospital.
Yes.
And what happened was, Darren said, you see that eye hospital there? Did you know I'm blind in one eye?
Which was a worry for us when that's your driver. And the thing that crossed our mind was, what happens if you get something in your eye, Darren?
Well, yeah, it would be a bit awkward if I got something in the right eye because we'd most probably crash.
But now then, you had many a year with ourselves driving up and down the country. So
Lucky me, yeah.
I think it's probably worth getting a few reflections from yourself, Darren. Any particular highlights from driving the Tidy Boys?
I can't seem to remember most of it, I'm going to be honest.
You had a good time, didn't you?
I think there were times that you'd be driving me back home.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a thing with Darren. He was our driver, but he was a party animal. We used to call him Nunu. And
for certain reasons, but we won't go into that.
If you want to look at the Teletubbies and work out what Nunu is, look at the nose, work it out for yourself. But he used to get carried away, and what happened was, in the morning, he'd ask us to drive back. So
yeah, on most, I think it was maybe half of the trips that we used to do, but yeah, it was quite a messy few years, wasn't it?
It was a messy few years. But Darren used to be our stooge on the old Galaxy shows. In fact, we quite a sad thing actually.
And here I am now, eh?
One episode, Darren rang through and said he couldn't come in because his cat Lucy had died.
21 years old.
21 years old, lovely cat, and it died. And Darren was all upset on the phone. I said, "Don't worry, Darren." And we dedicated a whole Hard House radio show to Lucy,
the dead cat.
The dead cat. So that's how nice we are. When Darren first started as a driver for us, he was very enthusiastic. He used to bring you fruit and vegetables, not vegetables.
He did, yes.
Vegetables,
fruit and sweets
broccoli
for the drive. But then towards the end, when he realised that he was driving us, paying his own petrol, and we weren't paying him, he realised that it was a waste of time. So Gay Darren, we always used to have a funny story with Darren. We'd ask him on Galaxy Show, what have you been up to this week? One of my fond ones is when he chased the bin men up the street, right? Because they kept messing around with his bins and he got angry. And so one day he saw him outside.
No, they didn't. They kept collecting my bills, my bins. That was the issue. They keep missing the collection points.
Right, they kept missing collecting his bin. So he went out one day angry with a fist, and he chased him up the street and fell over in the gutter and broke.
Pretty much broke my ankle.
He broke his ankle, and because they were all laughing at him, that was a tragic story.
I never went out again.
And there was a time that you were going to threaten. You bought a house and was unhappy with Persimmon Homes, or was it? And you were going to shit in a bucket in their office.
Well, my drains were blocked, and they weren't going to sort it out.
But we've got one news story which happened this week. Obviously, it's COVID and everything. He was at work and he was opening a box, and he got a Stanley knife, and he was opening this box, and he cut his finger. Now you wouldn't think anything, but then blood was squirting out, and he couldn't feel the end. He thought he'd cut through a nerve, so he rang 111, and they said, "Oh, it could be really bad. You better go up to A&E." So there's Darren. You don't mind me telling this story, do you?
No.
There's Darren. He drives up furiously to the A&E. He put a plaster on it. You can imagine a plaster around there. And he's sitting in the waiting room. There's somebody next to him with their arm hanging off. There's people coughing with masks on, broken ankles, heart attacks. And there's Darren sitting there with a plaster on his finger. And he has to go up to the receptionist who's already got a mask on. Darren's got a mask on. There's a plastic thing in front of him. And of course, it's silent in there. Everybody's looking at Darren. And he has to shout through the glass. She says, "What's wrong, Mr. Hicks?" And he has to say, "I've cut my finger."
Well, I didn't actually. I said, I looked at everybody else and I just thought, I can't really say what's wrong with me, so I just kind of...
He just left quietly.
I'll come back later.
So that's Gay Darren. Anything you'd like to say to Gary? We've missed him, haven't we?
I think, look, we thank you for coming in tonight, Darren, and I think we should give you the opportunity to tell the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what you're doing now.
Well, over the last few years, obviously, we've been building a mattress business, www.otti.com. If you would like to buy a mattress.
You don't have to do the www.
Well, Otti.com then, all right, fair
that's
enough.
Fine.
Otti.com then. So yeah, I've just been doing that for the last 5, 6
Amazing
years now.
turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we've all got Otti mattresses, so if you want to go to Otti.com. I used to have insomnia and a bad back, but thanks to Otti, I'm cured. You've got Otti mattresses.
All of us.
We've all got Otti mattresses.
I've got one.
Lee
got one?
Hold on a minute, Darren. This is a good... So, Darren, I've just realised, penny's just dropped. We're looking for a sponsor for the show.
There you go.
We're looking for a big cash injection.
Yes, we are.
Now,
50 quid a show, I'm in.
No, honestly, we'll talk later. This could be it.
Yeah.
It could be Music for Harder Generation show sponsored by Otti.
I'm up for that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk after the show. Thank you, Darren, for that.
No
you said
problem.
you only wanted to be on for 2 minutes, but you've been on for 8.
Yeah, it's a bit too long.
Now, you've obviously toured with us. You've been the man at the side of the stage. You do like your more trance-orientated music. So is there a Tidy golden oldie? If there was one record that you think we should play to celebrate this 25 years of Tidy, what would it be,
Cry,
Darren?
I mean, come on.
Heaven's Cry, it's a bit of
on
a Marmite,
every set,
isn't
you
it?
know, it's-
Do you have to?
How many years of that?
I know.
And was it you that kept requesting us to play Heaven's Cry? Are you going to play Heaven's Cry?
Yeah, that was me.
So for anybody that's watching, if you got pissed off with the Tidy Boys playing Heaven's Cry, blame the driver, because he always used to say, "I'm not driving you home unless you play Heaven's Cry." Go on then, Darren.
Press the button.
Press
Go
the
on.
button, that play button. Go on.
It feels like Above and Beyond.
Go on then.
Go.
Well, now let's slip back into the world of dreams and romance.
The Tidy Boys.
Golden Moons.
for a harder generation. The Tidy Boys.
There we go. Now, a lot of people get that wrong. It's not called Heaven's Cry. It's by Heaven's Cry, and it's Till Tears Do Us Part. And wow, we're going to talk about what the reaction is to that track in a moment. But just to let you know a brief history of it, it was sent to us by Edwin, who's also Stimulator in 2001 January. Me and Andy were in the studio, and we were doing some office work, paperwork, and we just stuck that track on that Edwin sent, and it was, I think, January the 8th 2001. And what happened is we got so involved in the work, we left it on loop, and we must have heard that track 50 times that day. I phoned Edwin the next day and we signed it. It didn't come out till September 2001 because Flash Harry did a remix, and just to let you know, the breakdown's quite long. We had to cut 4 minutes out of Flash Harry's breakdown. 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
too long. So the Flash Harry mix became the famous one that you know and love. We insisted on playing it. And it was one of the instigations why we came up with Tidy 2, because it was quite trancey for a hard house label. And when we first pressed it, it only did 2,000 and flopped. But we insisted.
We kept playing it.
And we played it at, I remember, not Global Gathering, it was Gatecrasher Summer Sound
System.
And then we used it as the intro at one of our weekenders, and it became a weekender anthem. So much so that people always, like Darren, associates a weekender with that track.
And the Tidy Boys.
And the Tidy Boys. And I think, bar about 4 gigs, we've played it at every gig. And I always tell this story. There was a time where we didn't want to play it, and I think we were in Hull or Grimsby, and we drove there and said, right, tonight we're not playing that fucking Heaven's Cry tonight. And then we got to the last track, and we nearly got away with it, and some girl came up and says, can you play Heaven's Cry? And we said, well, we're not playing it tonight, love, we've got to be off in a minute. She said, oh, I've had all the lyrics done on my arm as a tattoo.
It's a true story.
And we had to play it. And so we've continued to play it.
But it is a Marmite record. Some people hate it.
What reactions you got? So I see some people said, I saw one guy, I think Gaz Gibson said, oh, the show was going so well till you played that. But then a lot of hearts. So it really is split down the middle. And I think you've got a good track if some people hate it, some people love it. So much so your phone went off halfway through the track. It inspires.
Yeah, so the Tidy Weekender is on sale, and I get notifications on my phone if indeed we do sell a chalet. And as that track was playing, the website flashed up, and I'll tell you who it was. Joe Dummett bought a VIP two-berth chalet right there, right then.
And it was because Heaven's Cry was playing on this radio show.
There we go.
So there is a method behind the madness of playing that at every gig. It inspires people to book a chalet. And don't forget tidy25.com if you do want to book a chalet for the Weekender. We, over the next 52 weeks, are going to be talking more and more about the Weekender. I must also stress, as the show develops over the coming weeks, we want to interact with you more, and we're going to ask you to get involved. So as clubbers, we want you to send in your messages and videos, but we'll have more about that later. Andy, what's happening on the Tinternet, as they say? We've got
lots of nice interaction. We are streaming across multiple platforms tonight, Amadeus. YouTube, various Facebook groups as well.
Who said? Somebody said, who was the girl that said, I've got tidy tits? Well, we don't know the girl, but recently we've been going through old Tidy TV footage, and that's another thing we need to talk about, because we found about 800 hours of uncut footage, including Gay Darren in the bath. And oh no, I think that was a separate video that you sent in, wasn't it? I always get those two mixed up. But the girl who said about Tidy Tits, which was on the Tidy Boys Live, we found her. We found her actually saying it to camera. So we will, during the next 50 years, put that clip up, and we want you to identify who that girl is. The mystery will be solved. And also, we found some lots of footage spread over a series of VHSs and other formats that the Tidy Boys, we could actually show the Tidy Boys live at Tidy Weekender 2 if we can edit it together.
Let's do that.
So there we go.
So Tidy Weekender 25, as you will be aware, we bounced it back till next year, and just a massive thanks and appreciation that pretty much everybody stuck with us when we've had to move it back in this very difficult time. So we're confident that we're going to be on the right side of this situation. So come July next year, a few thousand people in Prestatyn reliving it again.
And we've worked out, like I said, the challenges. We only need just about 2,200 people for a sellout, not like the old days, because there's lots of two-berth rooms that have been sold. So I would hate to come April and everybody's rushing out to go to a Weekender and there's no rooms left. So just to think about that.
It will happen. The Weekender will happen. Now, have we got some footage to show here of the Weekender?
Yeah, I was talking about this old Tidy TV. Another thing we're going to be running over the next 52 weeks is a Tidy TV show where we found all the uncut stuff. And what I like about the uncut stuff, look, that's the best camera, Lee. You know it is. Stop doing the wide, fat one.
No, do the wide one. Keep it off me.
Look at me face on. That's where I'm best. What we've done is we've got all this footage, and we have probably found every clubber that's ever been to a Weekender somewhere in this footage, and we're putting it together, and we're going to run a show, and we're going to just run it uncut. So rather than it be nicely edited to music, we're going to sometimes let it run for half an hour, and you may find yourself in a chalet or at the Londis. So we're going to do that. But we found this. This is an excerpt from an uncut intro, the Tidy Boys. We found most of our intros. This one's from Tidy Weekender 11. Do you remember what you dressed up? It was the school. It was the
high school thing, wasn't it?
Now, as always, what we do with the Weekenders, Andy gets a good costume and looks good. If you remember Tidy Weekender 9, he was dressed up, I think, as Captain Hook, and I come out as a parrot. And... can you hear something there?
What's that? It's like... It's a train.
It's a train.
It's all right, don't panic.
We thought there's a fire again. Yeah, I come out as a parrot, you come out as Captain Hook. So every Weekender, I look the idiot and Andy looks gorgeous. Now, this Tidy Weekender 11 was no exception. Andy, you dressed as headmaster, and
Felt good.
Be prepared.
It's awkward.
I'm coming out as Britney Spears. Now, this may offend a few people. It's Tidy Weekender 11. Were you there? This is an excerpt from the uncut Tidy TV that's coming this year. Have a look at this.
On stage, live on Galaxy, it's the Tidy Boys!
The weekend has landed. Anything could happen tonight, you know?
Going to fade out in a minute, I think. It goes to a jing. It goes to.
Back on now.
Oh. Wow, we're back on. We actually enjoyed looking at ourselves so much. I was turned on by myself, and I think that's wrong, isn't it? To get self gratification, I think it was, wasn't it?
I quite enjoyed that outfit. My outfit, not yours.
Yeah, once again, I look like a dick and you look fantastic.
You do play the part well, though. It was very good.
So, obviously, we'll be looking forward to a Tidy Boys intro at Tidy Weekender 25. And we're going back to Prestatyn, of course, which is the spiritual home of the Weekenders. And my wife, who is allowed to touch me, of course, brings me a brandy. And I will not DJ or do any podcast or radio show without brandy in the future.
I think when you see those clips, you realise how special a Weekender was and is ultimately. And I think with the Tidy Boys, we've never taken ourselves too seriously, have we?
No, it's always been a little bit of fun. And today's as well as Tidy's 25th birthday, today's the 40th anniversary of Madness's Absolutely album. And just why I say that is because I think me and Andy were quite inspired by Madness growing up, and they never took themselves seriously, and they're still going after 40 years. So there's something to be said about taking the piss out of yourself. It seems to produce longevity.
Now, a little insight, maybe something that might excite people.
Go on.
We've been talking about this for a while, the Tidy Book.
Yes, we've been talking about the Tidy Book, and the reason it's not been done yet is because, well, we've got big plans for Tidy 25. And just to reiterate, Tidy is going to be 25 for a year. Now, other brands, we've noticed, they only celebrate their birthday on one day. So normally this would be one show and that'd be it. We're going to talk about it no more. We've decided to celebrate every year for 52 weeks. So we have got a book coming out, which will be in hopefully for Christmas, in time for the Christmas stocking. And that's going to be a good coffee table book whereby you can see yourself with many other clubbers and many other tidy sleeves. So the history of tidy in pictures and words will be out this year.
I'm looking forward to that, Amadeus. Should we have some more music?
What would you like?
Well, there was a track that the Tidy Boys always used to play.
Go on.
Nick Rafferty.
Yeah.
I Need a Fix.
It was the Sunday Essential EP, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Sunday Essential was one of those clubs, I think, where the Tidy Boys, we sort of cut our teeth. And in episodes coming up, we'll go more into like the Sunday Essential days. But this was one of those tracks which was synonymous with that time of the Tidy Boys at Sunday Essential.
Yeah, it's Nick Rafferty. It's I Need a Fix. Now, this only came in this week, and it's a remix by a clubber who's now developed into a handsome young man called Velos. Now, people from the message board will remember Velos, and he's back in the fold, back into his hard house, and he sent me this remix, and I was so pleased with it. We're going to put it forward for a forthcoming album, which is also coming out this year, which is called Drained. And if you want to know about Drained, people who are Tidy fans will know what we mean by Drained. It's a remix album following Rinsed, Milked and Flogged. So we've got Drained coming out this year, and this is one of those tracks that will feature on that album. This is Nick Rafferty, I Need a Fix, the Velos remix.
Music for a harder generation. The Tidy Boys.
Love it.
Music from Harder generation.
Tidy.
There we go. The Tidy Boys, music for Harder Generation. This is a special show to celebrate 25 years of Tidy, and you've just heard Nick Rafferty, I Need a Fix, the Velos remix, and that's going to be coming on a forthcoming album called Drained.
Lots of chat, a lot of love coming through there from people about the Tidy Weekender. In fact, Matt Baxter, I think it was, has just booked a 4-berth chalet on the back of that.
Well done, Max Baxter. And we'll I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. I'm just looking at this. Amanda Powell. You see, what it is, we really did get angry at the fact we couldn't cram 25 years and all the things we wanted to do in one Saturday night. So it was. I'm looking forward to digging deep into Tidy's history with you, the clubbers. So Amanda Powell, you could be on our show in the forthcoming weeks.
Yeah, this is about you and your story. This is 25 years. And I always liken, I think, Hard House to like Northern Soul. It was a particular culture in a particular time, and everybody's grown up with it. So we want to get you involved over the coming weeks and months on the show.
And one thing I want to do for the next show is we'll put a little forum on Facebook where you can ask the Tidy Boys questions, because sometimes I think you get, we know what we want to say, but there's probably a lot of questions you want to ask about Tidy that we forget about, or you know, we will just give you all the facts over the next 52 weeks. I've just had a message from Armin van Buren, who's just said, your show's better than mine. Do you want to write that down, Lee? Just write that down. Armin said, our show is better than his. Thank you.
Now, it's not just about the Tidy Boys,
no.
Amadeus, obviously, because it's also about the Tidy Girls. Now, funnily enough, there's a little story attached to this. The very, very first remix that was ever released under the name of the Tidy Girls was actually us.
It was. We came up with that name first. We were trying to think of a remix name, and we were Tidy Boys, Untidy DJs. So we pretended to be girls for the day, didn't we?
Yeah, so we did a Tidy Girls remix. What was the track?
It was Hamburgers, actually, I think. It was Hamburgers, yeah. It was like a limited white label. We pressed 1,000 up, and it was under the name Tidy Girls. So there we go. Way before the Tidy Girls came along in 98. And again, I must thank Simon Paul, who went on to be Lost Witness. It was his suggestion to get 4 girls together to do an EP. And we got these 4 lovely girls come to us to produce tracks. And we all worked in the studio on them differently, if I remember rightly. The first one we did was Lisa Pinup, and it was a track that didn't come out. Because the second one we did, I think it was me and Paul James did with Lisa Lashes, was called Looking Good. And the sound of Looking Good was so distinctive and not revolutionary, but very different to what had gone before, that we decided to redo Lisa Pinup's. And I think you did it with Paul, didn't you? Rock With Me,
yeah.
And then we spent a Saturday afternoon
with Rachel Auburn.
Which I'll never forget.
Oh, it was challenging, very challenging. Lovely lady. But
what a lot.
My God.
Yeah, she was. But do you know what? Working with Rachel, she knew what she wanted. And I always say that when we were writing the riffs and playing the bass line, she'd slap your wrist and say, no, even if you were just trying to work it out. So an eventful day doing Screwdriver, and also the remix we did, Rimshot. And then, of course, the lovely Anne Savage. Which was a great track as well. And Anne was already, these girls were already established for DJs anyway, weren't they? Really?
They were.
But we just turned them into superstars overnight.
Oh, bless.
So, over the coming weeks, we're going to be getting the Tidy Girls right here on this table, well, round this table, and we're going to be delving really deep inside them.
Having a rummage.
And we wanted to do, like I said, we wanted to do it tonight. Wouldn't it be good to get the girls round and interview them? But you can't get it all in a 2-hour show on Facebook, so let's spread it out. So over the coming weeks, we will have the Tidy Girls with us, and you can ask questions and we can grill them for you. Favourite Tidy Girl track, any particular?
I think Looking Good is probably my favourite Tidy Girls track.
We got a message actually from a couple of the Tidy Girls. I don't know which one we got first. Have we got a message there, Lee, coming in? Just been sent in. Who's it from, Lee? Can you tell me? Lisa Lashes has just sent it, and she did this tonight before we went on air. So this is Lisa's message to you.
Hey everyone, it's Lisa Lashes here. How are you? Manchester, right there, look. And we're tuning in to the Tidies podcast because it's 25-year anniversary. Can you actually believe it? 25 years ago, Tidy started we all started coming together as a community through music, and we still have those friends here to this day. Oh my God, music is the best thing in the world, isn't it? Isn't it? 100%. Anyway, I'm going to come on to the show with the boys very soon, so keep this short and sweet. Happy birthday, Tidy, and anybody else's birthday out there. Love you. Speak to you soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Lisa. She has been a very big part of Tidy's history, of course, and yeah, I mean, there's lots of other singles, obviously, that came off the back of the first EP that we done with Lisa. What Can You Do For Me? And unbelievable.
Huge, huge.
So very big tracks, and I appreciate, Lisa's gone on to do many other things and be the number one female DJ, obviously, in the world. And it all spawned from that Looking Good track, really. That sort of, because she was obviously great at Sunday Central. And by the way, we will do a show about Sunday Central. But in Birmingham, she was a resident with Nick Rafferty and Andy Farley and Kershaw. And she was I always remember that PVC outfit that maybe was too tight.
Now, interestingly, I had a conversation with her this week.
Oh,
Can't reveal anything just yet.
Go on.
But I can't reveal it just yet. But let's just say I had a conversation with Lisa Lashes this week about a project.
Ah, well.
So I'm going to leave it there.
Okay, you're teasing me. Have we got another message from any other female DJs you've got there, Lee? What have you got?
Anne Savage.
Oh, Anne Savage. Let's have a word from Anne. Here's Anne Savage.
It's your old friend Anne Savage here, wishing you a very, very happy 25th birthday, and I'm sorry we can't all be together tonight, but I'd just like to say what a very special bunch of people you are, and how proud I am to have been part of Tidy for the past 20 or so years, and all the happy memories, the nights, the events. You provided the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives, and you should be very proud. And I know how proud I am to call myself a Tidy girl. So happy birthday!
Music for a harder generation.
Africa with Anne. In fact, it was our second gig. First gig was in 1999, the Tidy Boys. We went under the name Untidy DJs, played in Jersey, I think for Michael Hooker, wasn't it?
All Around the World, I think the gig was called.
Out of This World.
Out of This
World. And that was, and then our second gig was in front of 12,000 people with Anne Savage in South Africa. And,
Johannesburg, and then down to Cape Town.
And then Durban as well. I think it was.
So we have some good Anne Savage stories that we can relay in the forthcoming show.
She will be a regular feature in the Tidy Boys Music for Our Generation, and it's going to be, the new show is going to be on a Wednesday night, every Wednesday night for the rest of your life. So be prepared for that. So Tidy Girls, I think we both agree. Probably one of our favourites is Looking Good.
Yeah, it's just one of those tracks that just works right here, right now, whenever you play it. So here it is, Lisa Lashes, Looking Good.
Nice.
Music for a harder generation.
The Tidy Boys.
Music for a harder generation.
The Tidy Boys.
There we go. Looking, I can smell burning.
Sorry about that.
Looking good, Lisa Lashes, and what a great track. And like I keep repeating myself, we will be going in depth through all the tracks that we put out Tidy. What I'll be doing is putting the sleeve up here, and we'll be telling you how it was made, why it was signed. So over the coming weeks, you've got a whole year. Now, obviously, we were going to do things differently. We were going to touch each other and hug and have a big party, but due to COVID, we're having to do it this way. We got a massive set that was going to be built by 3 big young men, weren't it? But they couldn't come today because Leeds is in a lockdown. So we're doing our best.
We are. So thanks for bearing with us on this pilot show, but I think it's going well. We're getting some great comments, some great feedback, but we shall only keep improving, Amadeus. Well, and we'll change that camera angle on you.
Yeah, one thing I do want to improve is that wide camera screen. I think somebody's played a joke on me, I'll be honest. I think what it is, behind my back, someone's put like fat widescreen on, because I've lost a bit of weight during COVID. Really, when you see me in real life, you'll be shocked at how thin I am. What do you?
Yeah, no.
Somebody said you look fat. You look like
but that's muscle. So as this show's about looking back, but also looking forward. And as you touched on earlier in the show, we've just had a #1 record.
Yeah, I mean, I would have. It was a dream come true, but you know, we've always sort of been a very underground record label. We've not had commercial success. We've been quite cult and probably ignored by some of the industry over the last 10 years. However, talk about being relevant when we hit 25. A young man who's now old called Carl Nicholson, middle-aged. He's younger than me. Has been working hard over the last 25 years to produce a masterpiece album. And what happened, I spoke to Carl about this, and you probably saw the interview. Carl Nicholson has been around the block and back. He's been a clubber, he's been a producer, he's been everything. And he used to phone me in the late 90s and 2000s. And be honest, sometimes I refused the call because I don't know. I was busy, and he was just breaking out. But you know, looking back,
go on, keep going.
I wish I'd picked up that phone.
Go on.
Because what happened is
Carl, where are you going with this?
I'm going full circle.
Go on, okay.
Because in Carl's word, he's gone full circle from there to here, and he's just produced, in my opinion, probably the best hard trance album of all time.
I'd have to agree.
And what he said to me, he said, I could have put it on Black Hole, I could have put it on Armada, I could have put it anywhere, but he wanted it to be on Tidy 2 as a way of saying thank you and coming back round. And it was his present to all the Tidy fans, the Tidy 2 fans. And what happened was it went straight to #1 in the trance chart in Beatport, and then a day later it went to #1 in their what we call national chart, above every other genre. So that goes above drum and bass, techno and house, and it was there for 10 days. So one of the biggest albums this year,
yes,
called Reverent, and it's by Carl Nicholson, and we are really proud, and we'd like to say thank you to Carl for giving it to Tidy 2 and putting us back at #1.
Yeah, because I think in our genre to do an artist album is relatively rare, but to do an artist album that is packed full of winners.
That's what I said, and I'll stick to this. At the 14 tracks, we could not choose a winner. And in fact, there was a 15th track that didn't go on the album, which will feature on the Tidy Boys annual. So there's an exclusive there. I said to Carl, that's my favourite track. He said, oh, bad news, it's not on the album. Oh, I've got 14 others that I think are better. So Reverent came out. It's still available. You can stream it, of course, on all your favourite streaming stuff. You can download it at Beatport. 14 tracks, beautifully mixed. Every single riff on that album is a killer. And we decided to put a couple out on Tidy 2. And the first single is going to be called Serenity, which he did with Paul Skellen. And I think you've got that lined up, haven't you, Sam?
I have indeed.
So if you haven't heard it, there's a bit of a taster of this masterpiece album, and this is the single coming on Tidy 2 called Serenity.
Music for a harder generation.
The Tidy Boys.
First for hard dance. Dance.
the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.